I have learned so much about how people learn this semester. Learning is a complex process. It involves biological processes, cognitive, social, and cultural. As far as I understand right now, I can't think of one aspect of being human that doesn't affect learning. I am going to talk about the learning paradigms we studied, the other literature we studied in this class, and then I'm going to reflect on how that changed my own thinking about how people learn. So, through behaviorism, I learned that we can understand some people's learning by studying behavior. And environmental factors can influence learning, such as different input that people receive, like positive feedback or rewards or even consequences. In Pavlov's theory of classical conditioning, I have learned that there are ways that people get conditioned, and we need to be careful about what kind of reinforcement we're giving students in classrooms. Positive reinforcement can be implemented to help students develop and maintain good habits. And we also want to be careful about what habits we don't want to reinforce. Modeling is an important form of teaching, I've learned, because young people are extremely observant and pick up on the behavior of those around them. So I want to incorporate that into what I bring to youth. I've also learned that operant conditioning happens all the time, whether we're aware of it or not. So we're exposing students to messages about their potential every day. And in considering operant conditioning and how that's affect students of color, because they're subjected to stereotyped images and cultural messages, we need to be careful about perpetuating those kind of stereotypes in the classroom. And we have to analyze the ways that we have ourselves been conditioned to hold stereotypes and biases against students of color, perhaps. So I need to be careful of that going forward, and I'm going to look forward to find more ways to learn about how to analyze my own inherent biases. Through cognitism, I have learned that environmental cues alone cannot account for knowledge. We also have to understand that thinking has a lot to do with how people learn. Language, memory, problem solving, and information processing all contribute to learning. So memory and focus are key factors in helping people learn. Students do well in an environment where they can develop focus and attention when it's needed. So I can help by making a calm classroom when listening is required. I can also find ways to make material exciting to help regain their attention if they're having trouble maintaining focus. Students benefit from thought-provoking questions that get them thinking critically about the kinds of things that we are learning. I also hope to give them experiences in self-directed learning for our curriculum, things that they're interested in on their own. I've also learned that information is a lot more likely to be stored if it's emotionally relevant. So making information emotionally relevant is important. In constructivism, through theorists like Piaget, I've learned that people are not just sponges soaking up stimulus from the outside world, but they construct their own knowledge actively. They receive information, they put it together with information they already had stored, and they reconstruct a new idea of the world around them based on the new information put together with what they had already had there as a schema. In my study of social constructivist Lev Vygotsky, I understand how important social interactions are in the learning process. So I hope that I can get a good understanding of each student's present knowledge coming into the classroom so that I can help them gauge where their zone of proximal development is. So I don't want them to feel so challenged that they're frustrated, but I also know that they want to have just enough challenge that feel like they're working hard to achieve a new goal. So I want to find that knowledge base and then also keep them challenged, and I can make sure to give them some scaffolding where that's needed. I also hope to create mixed skill level learning groups so they can help each other in their learning. In situated learning theory, I also learned that problem solving is a good skill for kids to acquire in the classroom. So I'm hoping to give them opportunities to problem solve problems together that come up as a class. In socioculturalism, this is the paradigm that resonated the most with me, that culture and attitudes, cultural customs, beliefs, and students' environments can have a profound effect on their learning and what they're coming into the classroom already believing about the world and about themselves as a learner. I hope I can create opportunities to get to know each and every one of my students' cultural influences and their social interactions that they've had that have already given them an understanding of the world so that I can help them in their further learning goals. So I also want to address that critical thinking is an essential aspect of learning. And I learned a lot from Paulo Freire when I studied him a bit this semester. So I learned that critical thinking is important to help students move forward in creating a just society. So I want to encourage kids to think critically about their curriculum and the societal structures around them. In our book, How People Learn, Part 2, it validated that, yes, learning is a social process. I also was reinforced to the idea about how important sleep and self-regulation skills are and executive functioning, and that these are essential skills to learn so that you can help yourself be a better learner, and I can help myself be a better learner, and I can help my students. So I want to learn more ways to help my students develop their executive function. I want to give them opportunities to set their own academic goals, make self-assessments throughout the year, and problem solve when they're having issues academically so that they can be their own guides for their own learning. Making curriculum meaningful and emotionally meaningful is super important. I learned that memory is not easily stored unless we make that information emotionally meaningful to ourselves. So I want to help my students do that by contextualizing it and making it relevant to their everyday lives. I also learned that it's important to provide other experiences besides just testing to help people understand what they've learned about material. So allowing them to make dioramas or plays or a rap or a song or do a speech or teach a lesson, providing other retrieval opportunities throughout the year. The Short Bus and For White Folks Who Teach in the Hood, wonderful books that helped broaden my understanding of measuring learning and intelligence and helping youth be academically successful. Although they're inherent biological processes that help us learn, each individual has it coming from their own culture, their own neurodiversity, their own experiences, their own families, neighborhoods, societal expectations and biases, and ones help develop their own ideas of the world and their own attitudes about their own learning. So all of that was really profound about these two books. I hope to allow for and integrate cultural differences and neurodiversity within my classroom. I hope to utilize some of Emdin's techniques too, which I thought were fascinating. Cultural language, getting to know how the children speak, what's relevant to them, using Cogents to allow students to express any kind of difficulties that they have, whether they are social, emotional, academic, or addressing issues of race. I love the idea of implementing methods of cosmopolitanism in the classroom, helping the students take responsibility for their own classrooms and for each other's learning, and creating a family in the classroom. I love the term collective effervescence, where teaching and learning are both exciting and exhilarating. Bell Hooks taught me a lot this semester when I learned about her. Indeed, education is a practice of freedom, as she says. I aspire to be vulnerable with my students, creating a shared community where we can be comfortable taking risks with each other and discussing things critically and openly. I hope to analyze my own curriculum for inherently oppressive language or messages so that I can adjust that curriculum to further the equality and fair representation of all of my students. I encourage students to participate in their own learning and to give me feedback and to help develop ideas of how we can make our classroom more inclusive and more engaging. So my own understanding of my own learning has changed through this class. I have a lot of compassion for myself as a learner after acquiring a lot of these new ideas that I've learned this semester. I realized that my own learning journey was profoundly affected by my personal and cultural life circumstances. I honor my resilience as a learner. I honor other people's ability to be resilient in their learning. Neuroplasticity is real. Brains are amazing organs. Humans are amazing, and we can all support each other through our relationships to achieve academic success. I've learned to be more aware of how my culturally conditioned biases might affect students of color that I might have, how my own white privilege plays out, whether I'm aware or unaware. So I do need to do everything I can to self-reflect and self-evaluate about that so I can treat all of my students with equal respect and compassion and hold all of them to the same high standards and give them the same amount of academic support and social and emotional support. And I understand how my social interactions I had as a child really helped shape my own vision of myself as a learner. So I understand how influential I'm going to be on the youth that I work with, and I need to be very intentional about my relationships and interactions with them. I've learned a lot about the value of being a partner in learning rather than a figure of power over students. I'm excited to be their learning partner and guide. I'm excited to encourage them to become their own teachers as much as possible. I'm excited to learn more about creating dynamic duos and cogens and learning even more about how to hold high expectations while believing in my students, but also helping them have a positive and curious attitude about learning, which makes a huge difference. I'd love to learn more about Christopher Emdin's ideas, and I'm looking forward to learning a lot more about other people who have contributed to the various learning paradigms that we have so far. So thank you so much. It's been a great semester.